Welcome to Part 2 of Increasing Their Motivation. In Motivation and Attribution Theory, you will learn how students' attributions can affect everything they do, both in and out of school. You will start by clarifying your definition of attribution. Then, you'll learn how it affects motivation and discover how teachers can identify students' attributions. Finally, you will learn what you can do to influence students' attributions each and every day in your classroom. In 1980, a researcher named Weiner theorized that individuals have a tendency to attribute their own successes and failures to two important internal and two important external factors. The internal factors are things each individual controls. For example, some individuals credit success to their own ability, thinking, "I'm good at this," or blame their own ability for failure, thinking, "I'm not good at this." Some credit success to their own effort, saying, "I worked hard," or blame a lack of effort for failure, saying, "I didn't work hard." The external factors are things others control. Some individuals credit success to good luck, saying, "I'm lucky," or blame failure on bad luck, saying, "I'm not lucky." Some credit success to task difficulty, saying, "This task was easy," or blame failure on task difficulty, saying, "This task was hard." These perceptions or attributions, whether positive or negative, determine the amount of effort a person will expend on the same activity in the future. According to this theory, if we want students to persist at academic tasks, we should help them establish a sincere belief that they are competent and that occasional failures are the result of imperfections, bad luck, or insufficient effort that can be eliminated in the future. It is important to do everything we can to persuade students that they are in charge of their own success. The fact is that we can make some important generalizations about a student's attributions, his or her perceptions about success and failure. For example, the only way to know which perceptions students use to explain their achievement or lack of it is to ask them. The perception a student uses to explain achievement or lack of it can be different for different tasks. The more ingrained a student's attributions are, the harder they are to change. And finally, a teacher can use the remaining 6 variables of motivation to change student motivation over time. If students' attributions are locked inside their brains, teachers owe it to themselves to find ways to identify what those attributions are, especially if they hope to change negative attributions to positive ones. How might using the following teaching strategies help a teacher identify students' attribution theories? Administering content or personal interest surveys regularly. Checking cumulative records of past performance. Checking standardized and criterion-referenced test score data. Interviewing students. Or conferencing with students. The message is clear. The older a student gets, the more ingrained his or her attributions will be, and the harder they will be to change. So what can teachers remember to do if they want to change or improve attribution, and therefore change or improve motivation? Teachers should remember that if we want students to persist at academic tasks, we should help them sincerely believe that they are competent, and that occasional imperfections or failures are the result of some other factor, such as bad luck or a lack of sufficient effort, that need not be present on future occasions. Teachers should remember that it is not beneficial for students to attribute their successes entirely to ability. If they think they already have all the ability they need, they may feel that additional effort is superfluous. The ideal attribution for success is, "I succeeded because I am a competent person and worked hard." Teachers should remember that when students fail, they are most likely to persist and eventually succeed if they attribute their failure to a lack of appropriate effort. Therefore, it is extremely important that when students perceive themselves as unsuccessful, teachers help them develop the conviction that they can still succeed if they give it their best shot. Teachers should remember that it is extremely hazardous to motivational health for students to fail repeatedly after making a serious effort at academic tasks. When this happens, students will either A, stop believing they are competent, or B, stop attributing their failure to lack of effort. Both of these outcomes are likely to reduce persistence at the academic tasks. It is important, therefore, to arrange tasks so that students who work hard are able to perceive themselves as successful. Teachers should remember that it is important to define effort correctly and for the learners to internalize an accurate concept of effort. In practical terms, effort is most usefully defined as devoting effective academic learning time to the task. Just trying harder or spending more time doing ineffective activities does not constitute effort. It is extremely important to make this distinction. If we use a negative definition of effort, when we tell children that their failures are a result of a lack of effort, we run the risk of leading them to believe that they are lazy, and they have no control over laziness. Believing they are lazy will reduce students' motivation. Teachers should remember that it is possible and desirable for students to believe that even though they have worked hard, they have not yet put forth their best effort. If we can show students ways to improve their efforts, and there are almost always ways to channel their energies more effectively, then we can enable them to have an accurate perception that increased effort is likely to pay off. Whether we like it or not, everything today's teachers do or don't do is impacting students' attributions. The thousands of teacher decisions we make each day and the millions of teacher decisions we make in a year will change how students see internal things like skill and effort and external things like luck and task difficulty as contributing to their success or circumventing their failure. Teachers should remember that excessively competitive learning, grading, and evaluation systems are likely to impair the learning of many students. Competition will encourage students to persist only to the extent that they believe additional effort will enable them to succeed within the competitive atmosphere. In many instances, an excessively competitive atmosphere is negative for less competitive students, because experience teaches them that no matter how hard they work, another more competent and equally energetic competitor is likely to win. Teachers should remember that it is useful to evaluate students at least partly, but not exclusively, on the basis of their effort. This does not mean that the weakest students in the class should receive the highest grades, simply because they may spend more time trying to master the subject matter. Ideally, course assignments should be arranged so that diligent work actually leads to academic success, and the teacher's evaluation should help students see the difference between the work that accomplishes simple tasks and hard work that accomplishes more complex tasks. Teachers should remember that it is best for students to have an internal locus of control, that is, to believe that their own behavior, rather than external circumstances, leads to success or failure. Research shows that the most successful students have a tendency to overestimate the degree to which their own behavior leads to success or failure. Teachers should remember that when students have a conviction that they lack ability, it is necessary to take steps to circumvent or overcome this conviction. It is as difficult and time-consuming to alter this conviction as children get older as it is to change the learner's self-concept. Teachers should remember that when students reject the value of effort, it is important to change their perception. This can be done by clarifying the meaning of effort and by seeing to it that effort actually pays off. What have you learned? Test yourself. If you can answer the 3 questions in this concept test, you are beginning to understand how attribution theory works. Number 1, define attribution theory and list the 2 internal and 2 external factors to which students attribute successes and failures. Number 2, explain why it might be difficult to change students' attributions as they get older. Number 3, list at least 3 positive things and 3 negative things a teacher can do to control his or her students' successes, failures, and willingness to exert future effort in order to influence motivation. Now that you are beginning to understand how attributions work, which variable of motivation would you like to study next? There are 6 other podcasts available at your fingertips. Which one will you open next?